The most important part of the deadlift is breathing and bracing. The most important piece of a back squat is breathing and bracing. The most important part of a clean and jerk is breathing and bracing. The most important of a snatch is what? Hey! Okay, so today, yes, it's a deadlift seminar, but the fundamentals of weightlifting are the same no matter what you're going to do with the lift. All right, so this is a great opportunity to really dial in how to breathe, how to engage your core, another way of saying brace, and not only be able to do it through a heavy lift, but also learning to breathe and brace through a Metcon. There are two very different ways to exercise. If I'm doing a 1 rep max, I approach my bar, I take a big deep breath, I hold my breath, and I lift it, and then I let it out, and I yell, and I drop the bar. Well, in a Metcon, when you have to do 50, if you hold your breath for 50 reps, I promise you won't finish the Metcon. So how we approach lifts during strength and during Metcon are very drastically different. Today, I am going to focus more on the strength portion, but we will touch on a little bit of Metcon stuff. Then we'll roll right into our POPs. Points of performance. These are the 9 points of performance that CrossFit has assigned, and I actually like them. Every single foundational movement we just talked about with Bobby, was it 7 or 9? I think that's where I mix up my numbers. There's 9 steps to all 7 foundational movements. We'll go through all those. Those are your progressions on how to deadlift. Then we'll transition into how to prepare your body for a heavy deadlift. Very specific steps. And like I said, today we're going to focus on the strength. I will run the class as if the only thing was a strength with no Metcon. The challenge and what's going to be very different about today is that in class, we are trying to prepare you for multiple different movements, multiple different intensities, and quite frankly, there's a lot of shit going on. So today, our warm-up will be totally different. It's how I would love to warm up for strength, but not Metcon. And maybe in the future, we'll start to see more strength and no Metcon. I think we did like a snatch day once and everyone loved it. I would love to spend 50 minutes doing deadlifts. There are a large chunk of us that wouldn't enjoy that, so I try to please everybody, but you know what happens when you try to please everyone, Rebecca. And then, after that takes about 45 to 60 minutes, we're going to roll right into an application of all the things we learned, getting you ready to go into your deadlifts. And then we will work up to a heavy single by the end. Maybe it's a 1 rep max, maybe not. But after today, my guess is that you will end up with a 1 rep max, a new PR. If we do everything right today, you should have no problem PRing your deadlift because you will have the best deadlift of your whole life right here, right now. Generally speaking, anyone ever do a deadlift and feel a little achy in their back afterwards? Super simple to fix. So when we go into the breathing and bracing here, see my pictures at the top here? There's a barrel and an hourglass. The barrel is pressurized. Kind of like an unopened can. If we think about our core as an unopened can, I want to keep it full, pressurized, and tight, right? In class, a lot of people will scream like, get tight. Engage your core. Well, truthfully, what the hell does that even mean? Your core is a giant muscle. It's a band that goes all the way around and wraps around your midsection. It's called your transverse abdominis. This muscle is what holds all your guts in place. Most people, when they talk about their core, they think of like abs. That's just some muscles right in the front of your transverse abdominis. But what's most important are those deep core muscles. How do we engage those deep core muscles? Take a big breath, bear down, squeeze through the midsection, and then what we have to do is we have to learn how to keep that brace while being able to breathe. Right now I'm talking to you with a braced core. It is not necessarily something that I have to turn purple while we're doing it. So we're going to get you into those positions. I'm going to have some of you guys do a demo here today. This is what we call a brace belt. There are these little knobs, and they poke into my stomach above my hips and my rib cage. In the front here, and then there's two little spots in the back that match up with my QL, my quadratus lumborum. It's the muscle that attaches in between the rib cage and the pelvis. And actually, if I back up a little bit. Anyone know basic anatomy of their body? Is there any bones in between my ribs and my hips? No, right? It's just my spine. So my ribs are up here, my hips are down here. If I don't use the muscles to support in between my rib cage and my hips, what's the only thing keeping me straight? My spine. Do you want to lift a 400-pound deadlift with your spine? Probably not a great idea. So this gives you a little feedback to push into these little balls and feel the pressure. So we'll do a little demo there in a minute. Now my can demo here. This can's full, unopened. If I stand on it, what's going to happen? Test my balance a little bit, but anything happening to the can? It's pretty goddamn strong, huh? How much do you think this can weighs? A pound? I weigh about 180, 185 pounds. So this can just supported 185 times its body weight without me breaking it. How much more weight do you think I could put on top of this can without it smashing? Anyone weigh more than 200 pounds? Want to test it out? You don't have to. I mean, you don't actually have to do it, but do you think standing on it's going to explode the can? No. No. Okay? So, there's my braced can, my braced core. Can's empty. Let's try that again. Can's empty. If I stand on it, what's going to happen? Now, my wife's a chiropractor. That's good for business. But I own the gym, so it's not good for my business. All right? The key is, if we can learn how to embrace, engage our abs, engage our TVA, tighten up the core, we can protect our spine through all movements of weightlifting. No exercise is bad for you. No exercise will ever hurt you. And this is why. If you can learn this, exercises won't hurt you, you'll only hurt yourself. It's a hard truth. Sometimes when we get injured, it's easy to be like, I don't do deadlifts. Deadlifts hurt my back all the time. But it's not the deadlift. It's our form and technique. So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start out. I want everyone to lie on the floor on their backs. You can kind of just come in front of your benches. Hopefully there's enough room for you. And you can, as long as you can see me, here. I want everyone, and you can start by, you can stay seated as long as you can see me, but I want one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. I want you to relax on your back, look up at the ceiling, and I want you to take a huge, big, deep breath. One hand on the chest, one hand over the belly button. Big, deep breath, and then exhale. Again, big deep breath, and then exhale. Whose chest moved before their belly button moved? Okay. And you can sit up a little bit just to see me. For most of us, we are breathing into our chest. When I breathe into my chest, my rib cage comes up, I actually disengage my abs, and I almost get skinnier through my midsection. I have that little drawing here. You guys see my drawing? There's a guy with a barrel, and then a guy with an hourglass. When I lift my chest and I breathe and my sides come in, I'm the hourglass. If we put weight on top of that hourglass, where's it going to break? We see the little skinny spot in the middle. That's where your belly button was. So now I want everyone to lay back down on the floor, flat on your back, hand on your chest, hand into your belly. From here, I want you to breathe into your belly. Your chest shouldn't move. You should push your bottom hand out. Then the rib cage fills. So belly button first, and then the rib cage can lift a little at the very end when you're full of a breath. Big breath into the belly. Breathe all the way in, and then all the way out. So this is how you're supposed to breathe through life and stress. Has anyone ever said or felt like, oh, I carry my stress in my shoulders? I get a lot of people that sit at a desk all day with stressful jobs. I carry all my stress in my traps, my neck, my shoulders. The truth is, it's because you breathe into your chest. When we're stressed out, we go, and then we get into this heightened state. It's a little anxiety. It's our bodies telling us kind of like we're not safe. So what the most important part we need to do is we need to learn how to retrain our bodies to breathe into our belly and then back out. Now, as it pertains to breathing and bracing, you're going to take a big breath into your belly, and I want you to squeeze your abs, push your low back into the floor, push your abs out into your hands. I want you to make that barrel with your midsection. Ready? So big, deep breath into the belly, squeeze, and then all right, you could come on up before everyone falls asleep after your 100 wall balls. Sit back on your bench. Who feels like they really breathe into their chest? Do I have anyone that has? All right, Heidi, I'm going to have you come up here as my demo. Hey, you raised? You don't have to. Anyone else want to go? Anyone else's back hurt when they deadlift? And they don't felt like they had a hard time breathing? Come on, Heidi, don't be shy. Here? Yeah, come on up. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this belt on you. You're going to Velcro it in the front.
Yeah, I'm bigger than you.
Okay. You feel a little pressure into the low back? I want you to face the back wall, stand to your side, okay? And then here, you feel those little things poking into you?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, take a big deep breath, push the belt out. And now squeeze your abs. Okay. Did everyone see that? The belt stretch out, very small exhale. Don't pass out. Everyone pay attention to the low part of her midsection between the ribs and the hips. Ready? And big deep breath in. And relax. Now, Heidi, do you feel the difference there? Do you feel those little balls pushing into you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So now here, I want you to face everyone. Now the hard part here is to be able to push these out and then be able to breathe through it, be able to exercise, be able to move. So this time I want you to take a big deep breath into your stomach, and then I want you to be able to squeeze your abs, and I want you to talk. Ready? And squeeze the abs. Now talk, but don't let go of the abs. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
What'd you have for breakfast?
Nothing.
You're having a hard, you're holding your breath. All right, relax. Thank you. Now, I wasn't going to torment Heidi there because it's really hard to learn how to squeeze and breathe at the same time. Bodybuilders coined the phrase, breathe through your teeth. Has anyone ever heard that? So, if you think about breathing through your teeth, you get your big brace, squeeze. What you're doing is you're keeping tension, and you're not just opening the can all the way and letting the pressure out. So you're keeping the pressure, but you're allowing a little bit of airflow in and out as you cycle through. Like maybe it's my deadlifts, it's a big deep breath. Right? And I'm breathing through my teeth to allow myself to keep that tension. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is what I want. Actually, before I move on, anyone else feel like they have a hard time understanding that? Anyone else want to try the belt? When we do the like warm up stuff later, I'll give you the belt back, but just curious. All right. So that's your breathing and bracing. We will revisit that when we start to get weights out. But it's the most important part, being able to breathe into the belly, squeeze. Because then we start getting into being able to keep the tension and bending at the hips. All right. Everyone is going to get a PVC pipe. I hope I have enough here. Hey, Bobby, you want to grab one for yourself and 2 more? All right, the next big challenge in the deadlift is going from finding the brace position to then learning how to hinge. The deadlift is what we call a hinge pattern. I can back up a little bit. The human body only moves in so many ways. We push, pull, hinge. You push things away from you, pull things towards you. You can bend and you can squat. So every exercise falls into one of those categories. In the hinge is focused on the hips. So we bend at the hips. One of the biggest challenges with the deadlift is when we pick up the weight on the ground, we have to bend over, we have to reach for it. So we end up rounding our back a little bit to get down to the ground. And this is a very hard place. Right? We just learned how to breathe into our belly standing upright. So when you get like a back squat, you guys will have no problem. Squeeze, tight, right? Back squat, awesome. Deadlift, a little more complicated because you have to bend over and then you start to compress that belly. So the next drill that I want to teach you for your hip hinge is what we call neck back crack. I know. Or NBC. Sounds better, right? The PVC is on the top of my head, back of my head, touching my head. The middle of my back, and then the top of my butt crack. Now if I hold this PVC to the back of my head, and then the top of my butt crack, and I go into my big brace, squeeze into the belly, and then I bend at the hips, notice how the PVC is still touching me in all 3 of those points. If I start to bend without a brace and I pull my back off, what happens? PVC is no longer touching my head. If I bend at my low back, what happens here? PVC comes off my crack. Are we going to laugh every time I say crack? The top of my butt, my tailbone, neck, back, tailbone just doesn't have the same ring to it, okay? So this is what we're going to do. You're going to all stand up. You're going to put this PVC on the middle of your back. And you're going to find those 3 points. So the top hand, I like to turn my palm in, put the palm at the back of my head. PVC at the middle of the back, right? And now, before I even get into the coaching of this, I want you to give me your best deadlift. And as you bend down, you can feel if that point comes off the PVC. So right now, soft bend in the knees. Can you bend forward and not let that PVC come off? If right now you're having a hard time get low enough to reach the barbell, it's a good reminder that every time you deadlift, you're using your low back. How many people right now, and right now I'm looking at the front of all of you. I can't even see the back of these PVCs. I'm going to say more than half of you have that PVC coming off the top of your butt. And it's okay if you are. That's why you guys are all here, is to get better at this. So if there's anything that you walk away from today, this is the only thing I genuinely care about. If you walk away today and being able to reach down to your barbell and having all 3 points of contact on that PVC, you are going to be a great deadlifter no matter what. All right? It's tough, huh? You start to realize, and you guys can sit for a second, but what you start to realize is that I can bend at the hips, but at some point, if I don't shift my weight into my heels, I'm going to start to come forward and that PVC comes off. The only way to keep the PVC at the top of my butt is to actually drive my butt back to maintain this position down here. So if I were to let go of this, I can now grab my barbell here. So if I'm here, but notice how much my knees bend to be able to push my butt back. I think sometimes when you're here and you're watching us from the front, we talk about the hip hinge and we only talk about the hips. There is a ton of knee bend to get down this low, and if you don't bend your knees and push your butt back, you won't ever be able to get in that right position. Boom. Cool? All right. Stand up. Put the PVCs on your back. I want to see who's really good at this and who feels like they might need a little more work. All right, go do 10 reps. I want you to go 3 seconds down, hold it there for 3 seconds, and then 3 seconds back up. Ready? And count it yourself. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Pete, good adjustment. You feel the difference? Uh-huh. Alex. Nice job. See? Heidi, look at you go. This is the part that you need the most. Yeah. But do you feel how hard it was to get down without it popping off? Now this is something that you can practice. And when it gets really heavy, that's when the PVC comes off the back. Right? So good job. All right. You can have a seat. Put your PVCs back down for a second. So I start with that for the first 20 minutes or so because every single thing we talk about from here on out starts and ends with that position. So we will reference it the entire time, but it's breathing, bracing, and the hip hinge. If you can nail that with a barbell in your hands, I guarantee you 99% of the time that you will feel great in your deadlifts. That 1% of difference is where it's going to come from mobilizing when we get ready for our deadlifts. But ultimately, that's where the success starts and ends with the deadlifts, honest to God. So while we move right along into like our general POPs, our points of performance, we're always going to have a checklist that I want you to go through when you go approach your deadlifts. And again, this counts for all things. But when you do a heavy lift, the heavy lift starts right here in your brain when you say, okay, it's time to go. I want you to look at that heavy deadlift and say, I'm 3 feet away from it. The rep starts here. Approaching the bar is always going to be stance, grip, position, and then pull the bar off the ground. So remember that, stance, grip, position. So our setup here. Step 1, hip width stance. The feet should always be under the hips. Everyone's a little different. Ladies, you're typically going to be a little wider. You have wider hips. Guys, sometimes they're a little narrow. Unless you're like, 6 foot something and you're just a bigger guy, you're going to have a bigger stance. But ultimately, it goes in correlation with your hips. You can really look down and see your feet underneath your hips. Or the other good test I like is I'll tell people to wipe the mud off your shoes. That when you can put pressure into the whole bottom of your foot into the ground to scrape the mud off, that also is how you know that you have full pressure on your foot throughout your big toe to your heel. So I'll tell people, just wipe the mud off your feet, and boom, now my feet are in the right spot. So, hip width stance. Hands outside hips. Typically, it's going to be about thumb width distance. So when I get into my deadlift, if I set up at thumbs width distance, what it allows me to do is push my knees into my elbows. That's going to engage the glutes. Oh. And we're going to go through these, but 3, full grip on the bar. This one's a little more obvious, but I want to see your thumb wrapped around the bar. And this is where we get to talk about this grip. How many of you deadlift with a switch grip? You don't have to raise your hand because I know a handful of you do because I've given you a hard time. You've seen powerlifters do this. The reason they have the underhand grip is it does give you a better grip. It makes it a stronger grip. And powerlifters, their whole job is to lift the most amount of weight. So one, you can get stronger in your legs through this grip. In CrossFit, we do Olympic lifting. The start of your snatches and your cleans all start and end with stance, grip, position. I cannot get better at my cleans and snatches and work my grip strength with an underhand grip because I can't clean from here. And I sure as hell can't snatch from here. Hand over always. And if you really want to be strong, you hook grip your deadlifts too. They always say there's 2 types of people in this world. Those that hook grip and those that want to be strong. It's a true story. You can stay like this forever, but you're always it's gonna pull out of your hands. When your fingers are here, right, all that weight pushes against it. When I can wrap my thumb around the bar, it pushes my thumb into my finger and it doesn't just let it slip out of my hands. So it's almost like a little safety lock. And that's also why when we do our turnovers for our cleans, it helps increase the elbow turnover. So, and I don't want to scare people. Do you know the number one most common injury in powerlifting? Bicep tears. You want to know why they tear their biceps all the time? Because they fucking deadlift like this. The reason why you're stronger is because you don't have to worry about your grip. If it's not your grip in your forearm holding it, we go up the chain to our elbow. Now our bicep is holding it. Andre, how much do you deadlift? 405, definitely. So Andre's in the 400 club. How much do you think you can bicep curl with your barbell? 65 pounds? You know, 10 on each side for like, you know, a couple reps, right? Hell, if you're a real badass, like 105 maybe. Seen very few people bicep curl 135. Point is, if you can't get 65 pounds up in a bicep curl, and I load 400 pounds into this bicep, the repetitions eventually wear it down, and it starts with a little nagging elbow pain, and then all of a sudden, they snap. So you'll always hear me say, like, train with a double overhand grip. If you've already always done the switch grip, when you go to the overhand, you're going to use less weight. And that's the pushback I always get. Well, Kyle, now I'm 50 pounds below what I can. If you work that back up, your ceiling now becomes an opportunity for you to have a new PR. If you don't, your progress will always come up, but then it'll start to really slow down and stagger. So this is one of those opportunities where like 2 steps back allow you to go running rather than limping through to your next PR and risking injury along the way. So always double overhand. And if you really want to be strong in CrossFit, hook grip your deadlifts. Cool? Full grip on the bar. Number 4, shoulders in front. So when I get down in that position, my shoulders are in front of the bar. Want to be very clear. In a clean, your shoulders are over the bar, and for some people, slightly behind the bar. But in a deadlift, over the bar, front of the bar. See the difference in my hips here versus here? In a clean, I need that bar to come up all the way in front of me and come up to here. In a deadlift, I just needed to get to my hips, so I get much better leverage and more strength through my hamstrings and glutes, which are much stronger than my quads. So you should deadlift more than you clean, right? And that's just basic leverage. Lumbar curve maintained. That one's a little more obvious because like we don't want you to bend your back. That's where the neck back crack comes from. If you think about the PVC as an external spine, it's on the outside of your body, and it doesn't bend, then you're going to use all your muscles. If the PVC comes off, that was your spine bending. I don't know if I really clarified that in my demo, but every time that back, whether it came off the upper back or the lower back, one of those pieces of your spine was bending in the wrong direction. Now this one, hips and shoulders rise at the same rate. Probably one of the most important POPs, but no one really knows what that means. So if we come over to my little drawing here, anyone ever hear people refer to the deadlift as like a stripper booty or stripper deadlift? What? Mike's laughing. Some communities, it's very common. The stripper booty. It's where the butt rises before the shoulders. Andrea's like, oh yeah. Sorry. All right. See the difference though, right? As soon as that butt comes up, one, my back's rounded so I don't have any power. But two, I'm not pushing my feet through the floor. I'm just lifting with my hips. So hips and shoulders rise at the same rate. So that's the stripper booty, the red X. Notice, you see the little green circles there marking the angle of my hip and the angle of my knees. As I pull the weight up off the floor, the angle with my hips stays exactly the same until the bar gets over my knees. So this part, so when we say hips and shoulders rise together, then the hips come through and the shoulders come back. But the first half of the deadlift, hips and shoulders rise at the same rate. Now when we yell POPs, you guys actually know what that phrase means. If you say that with no context, everyone kind of is like, huh? Right? Next, bar over the midfoot. Actually, we can kind of pile all this together. Bar over the midfoot and heels down. The bar over the midfoot, it is not touching your shins. There is a small little gap. If you pull the bar into your shins and completely drag up your legs, you will rip the skin off your legs and you will bleed. I'm not gonna lie, professional powerlifters actually use the flesh on the front of their legs to help them lift more weight, but they also wear like shin guards and onesies and shit, okay? And until you guys start coming to CrossFit class in a onesie, looking at you, Alex, I think you look great in a onesie. And as a dad now, I call them onesies. They're definitely not, they're just one piece. They're not really a onesie, but you know what I'm saying. And they drag it up their shins. You shouldn't actually touch your shins. However, the closer the bar to your body, the better the leverage, the stronger you are. Okay? So if you think about it, if I'm right here versus out here, when you're picking something up off the floor, if I reached out to pick it up, don't you normally step up as close as you can to it? All right, anyone have kids? I've never reached out to my daughter and been like, I'm gonna pick you up like this. Right? I'm like, oh, come here. And then I scoop her up close to my body. The closer it is, the better the leverage and you're less at risk. A 400-pound barbell, so if I'm Andre and I got a 400-pound barbell, if I get it 1 inch further away from me, it adds 25% more weight into my low back. Don't quote me on that. I think it's like 22.5% or something, but it's call it 20 to 25% more weight. For simple math, 25% of 400 is 100. So your PR weight, you just put on 100 pounds because you let it roll away from you. Do you think we're going to make that lift? Hell no. So you got to pull it close to your shin. So it needs to be over the midfoot, which is pretty much where the bow is on your laces. All right, a little bit in front of the tongue, tugging this far. Now that was a lot of long-winded shit there because they're all little baby steps. What's the most important, all of them happen pretty much at the same time. I guess I'm going to climb these dumbbells for a hot second. So if we look at our stance grip position, this is our setup. When you walk up to the bar, I clearly gave you a guy with bad form. Actually, here, let me demo that real quick. So the bar is here, I walk up to it. I worry about my stance first, so my feet are in the right spot. My hands are in the right spot. So while I'm set up, obviously look at my back, right? This is not how we deadlift. But in the setup, as I play through one step at a time, I'm worried about getting into the right position. So I'm not in the right position yet. So this guy that's bent over approaches the bar. Step one, feet hip width stance. 2, hands outside the hips. We could also call that 2, 3, full grip on the bar. 4, shoulders in front. Now, this is where we don't have our lumbar curve maintained, right? So your first 4 steps, you don't even worry about the back yet. Approach my bar, foot, stance, grip, and this is where we get to position. Once we have the bar and the weight on our bar, I'm going to pull myself down into position, which is the second part of the deadlift setup. So here's 5. I pull my hips down. We call this the wedge. Now I wish I had a barbell setup. When you first touch the barbell, you guys ever notice that little click? A barbell has the barbell, and then the collars are at the end of it. Bobby, can you grab me a barbell? There's the bar. It's got some ball bearings in the collar part, and then the big piece at the end that all the weights go on. The weights sit on the collar, and the bar spins on the inside. So there's ball bearings there. That's where we get the spin in our cleans and our snatches. Thank you, sir. Okay. When you lift the bar, the problem is, even just with the fan, it's hard to hear. But you can kind of pull the bar a little bit and it clicks. You pull the bar into those ball bearings. You guys know what I'm talking about, the little click? So when we talk about number 5, we call this the wedge. You got up into your position and then you wedged yourself down into it. This is where we take our big breath and our brace, we squeeze, and we pull that little click. We call it pull the slack out of the bar. You want to have a nice, strong, strict starting point on your deadlift. If you just walk up to the bar and you're all loosey-goosey like the first part, and I just go from grip and rip like a Metcon, you're not going to be tightly engaged. So as soon as you do get to the click point, your body goes ka-dunk. Do you know what I mean by that? So you have a little momentum and then it catches all that weight and it kind of pulls you a little bit and then the weight comes off the ground. When we lift, we want to get the weight to lift off the ground smoothly. Now we're going to test Bobby's maintenance skills, because the louder the click, the more lubed up and clean they are. Not bad. You hear that? That's the slack. So when I get up to my barbell, Stance, grip, position, click, glide it up. Stance, grip, position, the wedge, and that gets you to there. Once you're in that place, if you push through your legs, your brace maintains your upper body, you already built all the tension and the pressure through your setup, it's as simple as just stand up. Because at that point, all you're doing is you're driving your feet down through the ground. Which gets to our next piece. The push through the ground. Some people will call the deadlift the earth press. Anyone ever heard that? The earth press? This line right here is the floor. If you were deadlifting on a trap door and the bar was fixed, you know, it's 1,000,000 pounds and there's a trap door right here. I hold on to the bar. I actually want to visualize and think I'm pushing the floor down through into the ground. The bar doesn't move, I push myself down underneath it. So at this trap door, as I'm pushing down and my feet got lower, now my drawings aren't great. The goal here was that the head kind of stays at the same place, but the body straightens out down rather than standing up. You guys, you understand that visual? If you focus more on the pushing away, it feels almost like a leg press. How many of you guys have been to a crunch, like gym, amps, right? You can load up 1,000,000 pounds on the leg press. This might get a little weird, but you get lay on your back. You got the handles here. You fucking load it up with 20 plates. You put your feet on the pad. You grab the handles, and you fucking push that shit. It's me. It was going to get vulgar at some point. So if you step up to your barbell, if I envision that the bar are the handles, and I locked my back against the pad and the leg press, what do I do here? Drive the feet down through the floor. And now it's just a leg press. Now there's a few reasons why you can leg press more. Obviously it's on a fixed track. That makes things easier. But the real reason you can do double the leg press, when was the last time you did a leg press? If you have a full 100-pound deadlift, he's probably got an 800-pound leg press. Same muscles, same strength. Why can we do twice as much weight in a leg press? I don't think it's just to do with the fact that it's a machine on a track. I think it's more of that you have the ability to hold on and you create body tension. And the more tension we create, the stronger we are. Does that make sense? So if you come up to a barbell, and I just pretend this thing has 10,000 pounds on it, I scream, the bar will jump off the floor. Anyone ever use a grip tester before? What? I don't know if I know this one. All right. You know what? You got one foot. You're going to come sit up here with me. I want you to sit. You lefty or righty? Okay. We're going to put this in your left hand. All I'm going to have Rebecca do is we're going to turn this on, and I want her to squeeze the handle as hard as she can, but she is not allowed to use any other muscles. That means she can't make funny faces. Her other hand can't make a fist. She can't kick her feet. She just has to, with a straight face, be able to squeeze as hard as she can and smile without shaking her head. Okay?
Ready?
Ready? Talk to me. Squeeze, but talk to me. How is your day going so far?
It's a little tiring so far.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
I got
good.
this seminar thing going on.
Okay, now let go. Let's see what happens. 58.2. Now, Rebecca, I want you to stand up. This time, I want you to use your whole body. I want you to squeeze your face. I want you to squeeze your other hand, just everything except for your right big toe. Ready, and make noise. Let us know. Come on. Yes. All right, let go. 72.6. Anyone good at math? Percentage increase. 14. It's what? 28% increase in strength. I like simple math, so we're going to call it 25%. If Andre is doing a 400-pound deadlift, and we can engage the whole body and create full body tension, what's 25% more on his 400-pound deadlift? There's your 500-pound deadlift, right there. Boom, done. What we don't seem to realize is that, yes, your muscles are involved, but there's a hierarchy here for your whole body. And this is where we get into a little bit of neurology. Your brain controls everything you do. You have lots of muscle fibers. I'm going to use your bicep for an example. Now, these are made up numbers. It's just for the sake of oversimplifying it. Say your biceps have 100 muscle fibers. When I pick this up, I didn't use all 100 muscle fibers, because if I did that, I would have thrown this up through the wall and smashed it against the back wall. Your body knows how to not use all of your strength for everything you do. You can pick up a glass of water and not break the glass every time you squeeze it, right? So your body is telling you how much pressure you apply is how strong you're going to be. So when I create full body tension throughout my whole body before I lift, my brain says, you're safe. Let's fucking rip it. Does that make sense? But if I just lollygag my way around and I'm like, no, it's deadlift day. Wow, it seems heavy today. Now, I don't want to pick on anyone, but as a coach, this is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, because in class, everyone wants to be coached, you want to get a cue, and you're trying to get coach's attention. Do it before you walk up to the bar. Because this is what happens to me in class. I'll be helping someone, and I'll look up, and someone's doing this. Did you see that, Kyle? Was that okay? You got to get your head in the game before you even approach the bar. So if you do want help, just be like, yo, Kyle, come over here. Because the second it starts, going back to our stance grip position, I had made this analogy earlier. I didn't have a barbell though. But if you ever watch me lift, the lift starts here. Now I'm done. Intention is everything in a heavy deadlift. The second I lose that, the second I give it 80%. And now if it's a 1 rep max day and you approach your bar any other way, you're going to miss the lift, or maybe worse, hurt yourself. So the intent and the approach of the barbell is the most important part. Hence why we go back to stance grip position. So bar over the midfoot, heels are down, and complete when you stand all the way up. Full extension just means that my butt is completely squeezed. I can't squeeze my butt anymore. My hips are open. Knee extension, straight knees. Hip extension, straight hips. Okay? If I have my PVC, it's a straight line, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, midfoot. Overextension causes injuries. What do I mean by overextension? Here. If my shoulders go behind my hips, yes, you did get full hip extension, but you also go lower back extension. And I don't want lower back extension. Why? Because I'm braced and I'm going to keep my abs tight and my rib cage tucked in. Hip extension happens at the hips not at the spine. Okay, so this is not hip extension. That is. My shoulders don't have to rip back here. So even if you're a great deadlifter, this is what we kind of see even with the great deadlifters. Like, yeah, I'm so strong. Fuck, my low back's a little tight just yanking it, cranking it back like that. Shit. Now I'm sure. That's a great question, and I love the analogy because you know something? Rowing and deadlifting are very similar. When I teach rowing, I teach it like a deadlift. Remember that little demo I just gave you with the leg press? Well, now instead of my handle here, it's just the row handle here. Now, and not to get too into rowing, it is you open your hips because you're driving and you want extension through the legs, but it is not, you can't flare your rib cage and lean back, which sometimes I see people like, they're trying to get the cable like all the way back here. Your abs stay engaged. You lean back a little with your hips, but your abs stay tight, so you kind of end up in like a hollow here. What we see sometimes is we'll do this to get leaned back. Leaning back is not good, but keeping tight through the abs, or I shouldn't say, leaning back is okay as long as you keep engaged through the abs. The second you let your rib cage flare out, yes, rib cage flare equals low back pain every single time, no matter what you do. So if anyone's ever told you to keep your abs tight or your ribs down, keeping your ribs down is our way of telling you to take the pressure off your spine. But if I said, hey, flex your spine, don't extend it, in the middle of a Metcon, you'll probably be like, huh? I don't know what that means. But if I tell you to squeeze your abs or rib cage down, that should be enough to keep the abs tight and protect your back. Now I can keep my abs tight and lean back a little bit with my abs tight, right? So there is a difference. It's not just lean back. It's not that simple. Great question. Anyone else feel like they do the same thing in their rowing? So you don't lean back for the sake of leaning back. Cool. Well, that's the fun part. You guys get tired of me after like 13 minutes of warm-up lecture. I'm impressed that we made it 56 minutes. Give yourselves a round of applause. Oh, that's what it is. So maybe it is a good thing that you guys did 400 wall balls this morning. I was just more thinking that you guys were going to go to pick up your PVCs and be like, oh, Kyle, my back hurts. I'm like, well, I can't help you anymore. All right, so this is what we're going to do as we transition to get you guys moving a little bit more. When we prepare for the deadlift or any exercise, when I have the time, I'm going to mobilize or stretch. Then I'm going to take us through a dynamic warm-up. We'll prime the core and prime the hips. So when I say core, I'm talking about that transverse abdominis we started, working our brace. Priming the muscles of the hip, hip extension, hip flexion, extension, glutes, hammies, hip flexors, things like that. Once you have blood flow into the important muscles, then we have to add intensity. Then we practice the deadlift before we add weight. Now to go through some of this, which I think is super important, in a CrossFit class, we will never stretch before. Why is that? Does anyone know why you don't stretch, you don't static stretch before you exercise? What's that? Makes your shit loosey-goosey. I couldn't have said it better myself. Muscles require blood flow, they contract and expand to lift weights. When we get into a static stretch, we yank on that muscle, we pull it all the way open, and we basically put it to sleep. Again, I'm oversimplifying, but I'm You're putting it to sleep. I want to do the opposite. I got to pump a shit ton of blood flow into this muscle so it knows it's about to be go time. Imagine folding myself in half, like a yoga class for 5 minutes, and then go to run. You know, the 2 areas in the fitness industry that have the highest injury rate, and I'm going to give you a hint, it's not CrossFit. Though people out there might tell you it's CrossFit, but that's not what the studies show. Running, number 1. You know what number 2 is? Yoga. Huh. Interesting. We hold long stretches, we start to pull on our tendons and ligaments. Tendons and ligaments are not supposed to stretch. They hold the muscle to the bone. Stop pulling on it. Okay? Getting off track a little bit, but the stretching thing drives me crazy sometimes. But I want to be clear. Stretching is safe when applied appropriately. It is possible for you to be tight, and it is possible for you to need stretching. If you are going to stretch, you better have a full hour to prepare for your deadlifts, which today we might actually have. Long stretches will make that tightness feeling go away. It'll desensitize the muscle so you don't feel like it hurts anymore, which allows you to access new ranges of motion. These are all good things, because if we earn new range of motion and then strengthen in that new range of motion, that becomes a range of motion that you acquire. Follow me on that one? So a lot of people, when they squat, they get to here and they come back. Their muscles aren't short. If the squatter that gets to here died right now and we cut the muscle off their leg, it's not like it was shortened. It still will stretch way past they need it to stretch. Their brain was telling them, I'm not safe. Don't do that. You're going to rip me off the bone. That's exactly where I'm going. So there's 2 times to stretch. A long time before your exercise or after. Preferably the best time to stretch, in my opinion, and I'll give you a little opinion more than fact. Stretching for me is the best time to do it before bed. Not only does it wind the body down, it prepares you for sleep. It starts to kind of quiet down those talking muscles from all your working out that you've been doing. It tells the central nervous system that we can relax and that we're safe. And it kind of puts you to sleep. And then you sleep after a nice long stretch and you feel good. Your body feels great. You wake up in the morning. You get right into your dynamic warm-up, which we'll talk about next. And then get into exercise. Does that make sense? So, foam rolling, all those other massage guns, same concept. You're desensitizing the muscle so you make the pain go away. But the only way to fix your problem, because that's temporary, it's a temporary sensation. If you stretch it, the next day you're going to have to stretch it again. You haven't changed the muscle. So you're just going to keep stretching the same shit every single day and you're not going to go anywhere. And if you do that 30 minutes a day for a year, you wasted a shit ton of your life trying to access new range of motion. The number one way to access new range of motion is to lighten the load and challenge yourself through the fullest range. If I put a barbell on my back and I can only get to here, well, take the barbell off my back, hell, hold on to something like a squat post and walk it down, because all of a sudden I get here and, oh, wait a minute, my muscles aren't tight. I can do a squat. So when I put the weight on my back, I can't get any lower. It's neurological. It has nothing to do with the muscle itself. So how do we get over those neurological little hurdles? Well, I like, when we're looking at how to prep for intense exercise, look at all the professional sports. As much as we are not like professional athletes, there is millions, maybe billions of dollars in the science to helping people perform better. They don't seem to put that kind of money into average folks like us. So when you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, anyone ever go to a football game? And anyone ever go early, like before like the stadium's full? Like you ever watch the warm-ups and shit? If a kickoff is at 1 p.m., at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're out on the field doing static stretching, okay? They're doing their toe touches, and they're doing their groiner stretches, and it's basically 90 minutes of yoga, okay? That's gonna take them from like 8 to 9, 9:30 in the morning. Opens up all the work they've put in all week long. They go back to the locker room, adjust final things for like game plan, whatever coaching shit that doesn't really matter to us. But then they come back out of the locker room an hour later, and they start to run drills. This is where, in CrossFit, this is where we start our warm-ups, at the drill point. If we had 2-hour classes, then yeah, I would consider doing more static stretching in the beginning. But unless you guys can carve out 90 minutes for your classes, which we'll never be able to do, then maybe we would stretch first. But we skip that part because you can't stretch and then be ready for exercise within a short time frame. So now the athletes come back out. Now they're running. Now they're doing their inchworms, and they're lunging up and down the field, and their line drills, and their leg swings, and their high knees, and their butt kickers, and their cariokas. Then they go back into the locker room. They put on their pads. They get all dressed and all ready to go. Then they come out and they do their sport-specific stuff. They break out into little groups. The receivers go and they run their routes. You know, linemen get down in their stance. And if you're not a football fan, sorry for boring the shit out of you, but like everyone has a different job on a football team, and they have to now practice that. They have done all of this for like 6 hours before it's game time. So if we condense that down, what is the best way to get ready for high-intense exercise? Those field drills or line drills, kind of like we do here in class a lot. Line drills are my personal favorite. Gets you moving, gets you warmed up. It's a little more fun. You can kind of do some shit. Then we go get our barbells out or our PBCs. We practice the movement. We fine-tune it. We make sure we're in the right positions. And then it's game time. So those are the three. But if you have certain limitations like that you really need the stretching for, you need to probably come in 15 minutes early, do your stretches, maybe a little foam rolling, then hop into line drills, because the line drills will get the blood flow back into the muscle before you bring the intensity in. And that's how we keep the muscles and the joints safe. Does that make sense? Okay. The last thing I want to do, because I realize now I skipped a demo, which I like this one. While we're talking about stretching. If this black muscle, black band, is my quad muscle, and this band is my hip flexor. If you guys know some basic anatomy, Dakota's my nurse over here. She can confirm I know what I'm talking about. There's only one muscle in the body that goes from your knee up the leg through the hip and attaches at the spine. It's called your rectus femoris. It's a hip flexor. Everyone calls it hip flexor. But you have your quads and then your ab muscles, and it all comes up through the midsection and goes to your back. A lot of times we feel that tightness either in the front of the hip, we get a pinch when we squat, or we get an achy back after we deadlift. Common faults, common pains. Well, what's happening, and this is why we don't necessarily stretch. So this is the quad, this is the abs. When I go and do an exercise and I use them, when you feel this green muscle, it's going to feel really tight. Does it look tight? What happens if I stretch this muscle more? Do you think stretching this green muscle more is going to fix my problem? If this is my joint, I need to keep the joint in the middle. There's a lot of pressure on this green band. The green band is about to snap and smack me in the face. So do I want to stretch this? Y'all got some strong ass quads and some weak ass abs. That's why your back's hurt. Overgeneralization, but typically this is very common. And if you maybe sit for work, you're sitting and these muscles don't get worked, but then you go leave the house, you run, you climb stairs, our quads, everything happens in front of us, so our quads become very dominant. So our quads get really strong and our abs get really weak. This back pain, okay? Does that make sense? That visual help you why we don't stretch? So you're just gonna keep yanking on this until it fucking snaps. Well, there's your ACL. I thought you would never ask. Well, the band snapped a little too early for me, but don't worry, I have another one prepared. Now notice, now I'm gonna be honest with you, they're both red bands and they're supposed to be exactly the same. I understand this one's a little newer, so it's gonna win. But if we, maybe I shouldn't have thrown this up yet. Instead of stretching the muscle where it feels tight, what if we made it stronger? What does that poster say? Say it out loud. Weak things break. I just proved it. So we make it stronger. Now we get stronger hip flexors, stronger abs. Now, when we deadlift, I know this one on the left's a little looser. Don't judge me. But now it's much better, right? The nut is more in the middle, okay? If you want to work out of pain, get out of some of those positions, we need to strengthen the problem areas, not stretch them. Cool? I'm still fucking pumped that thing snapped right when I said it. I hope that's on camera. All right? So the solution is strengthening it. If you've ever taken my classes on deadlift day, I mean, I try not to bore you and do the same shit every single time, but my number one go-to for a heavy deadlift, we tie the bands to the rigs and we do those hip flexors. I would say if any of you have ever come to me and said, oh, I got back pain, it's the first thing I show everyone. I would say half of this gym has heard me say, tie this band here, pull your knees in. And if you get 15 to 20 reps in and you go, oh, the abs, but you can deadlift 400 pounds, you are the green and black band demo, okay? Well, as I look around this room, I'm not gonna call anyone out, but I know personally, I invited every single one of you for a reason today because I know that there are certain people that benefit from this conversation more than others. So you guys are in good company because you're probably not that different than the person you're sitting next to. And I just think Rebecca likes hearing me talk. She might be like the only one. That's why she's here. She's got a decent deadlift, actually. She really does. All right. What? Yeah, Rebecca's a badass. At least you could, she's so badass, but now you can run from her, so. All right, do me a favor. I want you to take your benches, get them out of here. Put them against the back wall. Let's start with this mobilization now. Let's see if this works. Hey, it's still recording.